Hello to everyone from the DMV and beyond. Welcome to season 2 of Positive Voices. Listen, I'm glad to be back, and I hope you're glad to have us back. I'm excited. Missed y'all, missed the conversations. First, I want to give a shout out to my season 1 co-host, Leah Henry, who is going on to bigger and better things, and we are so excited for her. And now I want to introduce you all to my new co-host, Tei Pearson-Hall. T, give them the T on T.
Ew, hello. Hey, Positive Voices. I'm Tei Pearson, T-E-I, the E and the I silent. I got to tell people that, right? Wow, the T on T, that's cute. You trying to be real nosy,
You know, I'm
right?
trying to step it up for you.
I see. I appreciate it. So first, I'm just excited, right, to be able to share the platform and the conversation with you, along with all of the hosts, all the guests, rather, that we'll have this season. Who am I? Oh, gosh, that's a lot. So I am a mom, right? And so I have one biological child, and I have 3 bonus children, courtesy of my wife. Third marriage, we'll get into that.
Yeah, because I know the viewers is like, oh, she got a child and she got a wife.
Right, and I've had 2 husbands. So let me get into it.
It's T.
But I also have 7 angel babies. So I've had 6 miscarriages and 1 abortion. So That's another one of the platforms, right, that I like to kind of use my voice to have conversations about. I'm a through and through philanthropist, right? I enjoy community work. I've done nonprofit work for most of my adult life. I'm a disabled Army veteran. Right. And so when people look at me, they be like, there's no way. But I have a lot of herniated discs, fluid on my brain, in and out the hospital. The doctor has called my family, including my child, to my bedside several times before, with it being the ending. Right. I am a 7-time suicide survivor. And people are like, well, what the heck is that? It's when you've attempted, not just a plan, but action. Not to brag about it, but I'm thankful about it, that I'm a failure, right? That I felt in that area of my life.
We're glad you're still here.
Hello. I've never been so happy to be a failure in something, but I'm definitely...
If you're going to fail at something.
Hello. Thank you for that. But I came from Landover, right? So Palmer Park, stand up. Okay.
Come on, natives.
Right, you hear me? But people like, oh, you live in Baltimore, and did, because they gave me a little more bang for my buck and, that stuff. But I just enjoy helping people, right? I have been through so much trauma in my life, which I'm excited to kind of share even here on this platform, of losing folks from complications of the virus, HIV or AIDS, right? I found out that my dad had full-blown AIDS when he was murdered, and I didn't find out from my grandmother until after, we were burying him. So it was like, wow, okay, right? So let me hang this somewhere, because I'm sure it's going to have to come back at some point. I'm a sexual assault survivor, started at the age of 4, and kind of ran the gamut of just sexual assault, gang rape, childhood sexual exploitation and assault, date rape, right? So I've kind of been through the gamut of sexual assault, which allows me to use my trauma to help other people be able to kind of get their voices and get their feet under them.
Yeah, positive voices.
Positive voices. Hello, wasn't it? It only made sense, right?
Right.
And so I also founded a wonderful company called TPX, which is the Tei Pearson Experience, where people get all of me. And so I show up as me. I show up in spaces from all kinds of cookout to like a corporate hosted event, of just kind of coming in and giving people permission just to kind of live unapologetically, to have some fun, to have some humor. I kind of coined myself the human conversationalist.
I like that. Good branding.
Hello. And I said it first, okay?
Copyright.
Hello, I'm waiting on that coin to come through so I can do that. But, just to be able to have folks I want to help people take things back, right? And so, like, I love talking about taboo conversations. I love producing conversations about taboo topics, because the taboo topics help statistics grow, because nobody wants to talk about them.
Yeah.
And so that's my platform. And then we have the wonderful Team Nosy, which is started as a kind of just as people just nosy, right? The thought that people just nosy. So let me just throw a hashtag in front of it.
Are you nosy?
All the way.
That works for us here.
I am queen nosy, right? And I get it from my grandmother, period. But I've been able to like take that and empower people in their nosiness, either through fun, but also like the biggest piece is community. So like when people are missing, when kids are missing, when things are going wrong in our community, I kind of employ the team nosies. See something, say something.
I love that because we come from a community a lot of times as Black people where it's very much mind your business, don't worry about other people's stuff, don't get involved in people's stuff. And I hear you saying like this like healthy inquisitive, like this healthy get involved.
Yeah, because
be nosy. It's okay to be nosy.
Because if you nosy, then do something, right? Yeah. Because the thing is, it's like nobody wants to say anything or do anything unless it applies to them directly. And usually by then you're impacted, your area is affected, and all of these things. And then the Black community continues to kind of go left because everybody knows something. Yeah. There's a nosy neighbor that saw something, but because of different things that go on in that community, people don't talk about it. So like the nosies is like employing people like, we got you. Like if you're going to say something, we got your back. Say something, sis, we got you. You know, and kind of giving people that empowerment to just do something different.
Well, I'm happy that your nosiness on this platform looks like you asking a lot of great questions. I think you bring a lot of perspective as someone who identifies as lesbian.
Yeah.
And we'll talk about that as someone who, you know, you have your mother, as someone who's a mother, wife, who identifies as lesbian. And it's not, I just need to say, like, we don't often see a lot of the feedback that we got first season. And let me tell y'all, we do listen to your feedback. We do hear you all. Let me just address something. So one of the reasons why you don't see it in the work that we do, period, not even just this platform, but a lot of conversations around lesbian women, is because when we look at the epidemiology, or that's really the study, like who are the people affected by HIV? Who are the people at risk? The type of sex that lesbian women tend to have, or at least we assume they have, doesn't put them at high risk. And we're not seeing them, you know, in high numbers, make up the new positives. Yeah. So there's not a lot of funding towards, not a lot of focus. We tend to focus on people who, Black women, Black MSM, which is men who have sex with men. But for you to be able to be, you know, a person who identifies as lesbian and be here at the table, what would you want us to know about the demographic? And not that you speak for a collective, but what would you want us to know about even like assumptions around the type of sex that lesbian women have? Because you got 2 kids, so.
Well, I have 1 biological.
1 biological.
And 3 bonus, but yes, and we do have a lot of sex, we do. Because they nosy and they be wanting to know. But I think what people miss in the conversation and miss having lesbians at the table, right, is that it's an assumption that all of us come out the womb as liking the same sex.
Right.
Right. And so we all came out the womb liking women.
Yeah.
When that's not really true for the folks that I know, right? My wife and I actually came from previous marriages. She had 2 previous husbands. I had 2 previous husbands. And so this is our 3rd marriage each, but our first same-sex relationship and marriage.
Wow.
Right? Oof. So, yeah, we both turned each other out, I guess they say, right? And put a ring on it.
Listen, if you like it, Beyonce, you better.
And we did, and we did. But I think that the conversation pieces are missing because that fact right there is missing. That some of us come into this lifestyle after being in this heterosexual relationship.
Yeah.
And so we know with that comes unprotected sex with husbands and you know, my husbands was going out there doing what they was doing, right? And it wasn't always something that was beneficial to us in the home, but it also put me at risk, right? And so if that put me at risk in that marriage, what happens when I come out of the marriage from men and like, okay, now I'm not bisexual, like bi men, because I'm all the way over here.
You're all the way over here.
Yeah.
What I'm hearing you say is that how people identify as far as like their sexuality doesn't necessarily mean or define who their sexual partners are.
Correct.
And what's fascinating to me, it just came to me as you said that, like, you're a Black woman.
Yeah.
The difference between you having, who you're having sex with, who your partners were, completely changed your risk.
Yes.
As a lesbian, it's like, girl, the risk, or what we see in epidemiology is so small that we don't even really do a lot of marketing, a lot of events for lesbian women when it comes to HIV. But Black women here in the DMV, you would be the second at risk as a Black woman having sex with Black men. And so that, and I think that's important to point out because a lot of times people make assumptions even with like HIV being a gay disease or these kind of things. And it's like, literally, if I just have sex with women, that would change. that would drastically
one little check
change
box.
the risk factor.
Yep.
Like, you know, and I would agree with you as a femme gay man. There's a lot of assumptions about who I have sex with.
Yeah, let's get into that because I know you all over here being nosy in my business.
Yeah, we'll get in mine.
But we want to know what you got going on with you too, right? Because you are a butch queen, very, very quick, very, very cute, right?
Yes.
And so, like, I can just only assume, right, that in DC, or are you from DC?
No, I'm from Philly. I'm a transplant.
Oh, you're a transplant.
Big Philly, y'all already know.
Okay, 95 North, pull up.
Period.
Right? And so, like, okay, so it's a transplant, right? And so you come into the area and you're here and you're being you, right? And so what does that look like, though, as like the confidence? Like, how can you go out with the confidence of being who you are and you're positive?
Yes,
right?
I'm HIV positive. I've been HIV positive since 2008.
Okay.
So the boy been around here for a while.
So are you the low cell undetected?
The long-term non-progressor.
The long-term
we talked about that. We'll get into that, y'all, later in the season, what that all means. But, like, so no.
Okay.
Debatably. So usually when we look at...
Stay tuned. We'll talk more.
Yeah, usually when we look at people who are long-term non-progressors, just lightly, like you look at people who over time, like the disease hasn't progressed quickly without them being on medication. I didn't have a long period of time. I would say like maybe I went like the first 5 years without taking medication.
Okay.
Because the first medication I took, and I won't say which one it was, but let's just say I was only on it for a week and it made me so sick.
Oh, wow.
In a week, I lost so much weight. I was having like lucid dreams and I wasn't able to like sometimes like know when I was awake and wasn't. It was bad.
Okay.
I felt sick. I had like in my opinion, like a grayish complexion and it scared the bejesus out of me. Like everything that Philadelphia looked like, I felt like, even though I, didn't have that. Yeah, the movie. So like it scared me and it scared me away from medication. And then I was in church once upon a time. I was a youth pastor once upon a time.
Me too.
I was in ministry for about a decade.
Hello.
And so I was a part of that whole black pray the gay away, and that faith in like my faith in God and my belief in healing prevented me from taking medication. It was why I later on became a good adherence specialist, because I understood every side of it. I had taken medication but undetectable, but I knew what it was for multiple reasons not to take medication and what it felt like to not feel like that was a safe option.
And a good adherence specialist does what?
Yeah, so a good adherence specialist, basically our job is to support people and with respect to the agency, like respect to your personal choice, help them find the best way for them to adhere to their medication. Adherence just means like you're taking the medication as is subscribed, and you're also adhering to your appointment. So going to your medical appointments the way you should, following up with your provider. And people have a lot of different reasons. So a good adherence specialist goes in, and I want to hear what's going on in your life. So I'm not coming and saying, take your medication every day.
Yeah.
What's housing like?
Okay.
Because are you safe where you are to bring your pill? Do I need to give you a separate bottle, a separate mechanism that maybe it looks like a pen, but you actually use this as a pill bottle? Like, things that we were like really seeing where a person was, and what other things in your life affects your ability to be able to take this medication, to show up for appointments? Is it mental health?
Services.
Is it full body?
Got you.
And do it in a way with compassion, because I understood.
So let me ask you this. And so that sounds amazing, right? To be an adherence specialist. But like, let's go back a little bit, because I don't really know your story, and I assume that some folks will be tuning in who don't really know either. So like, can you take us back to, and I know this season we have all kinds of conversations, so stay tuned. We have a lot of folks on the couch that's going to share their experiences too. But we want to know about you, Kai. So like, to be positive and to say it with so much ownership, right? And I have watched you kind of just speak very proud, right? Of just, yes, this is something that I have, but this isn't me, right?
Absolutely.
So can we go back to just like when you got that diagnosis, though, just real quick, of like what your world was looking like before you got it, and then what happened in that moment, and then if you could kind of do us a fast forward a little bit.
Yeah, I was 20 years old.
Okay.
I was in college. Shout out to Drexel University, Fear the Dragon.
Fear the Dragon.
And I was living my best life. I wasn't thinking about HIV. Like that was something that my friends would like refer to it when people would get sick. They would call it like the monster.
Yeah.
But it was something that I didn't feel like I was heavily at risk for because in my mind I wasn't like super promiscuous. I actually was like kind of a late bloomer. I was a little bit like scared, of a lot of things. Much different at 20 than I am today here at 35.
Okay, 35.
But y'all see
You
these.
cute.
But like, no, I was much different. And because I wasn't expecting it, I remember like finding out my diagnosis. And what's so interesting, I went right to work after. I think because I'm gay, I'm black, I'm femme, there was no room in life to be weak or vulnerable.
Wow.
I never felt like I had like this safety or privilege for vulnerability. So the first person I told was my best friend at the time. And this is literally how the conversation went. I told her I was HIV positive. And I said, listen, I found out I'm HIV positive. I'm going to give you 5 minutes to have an emotional response. After that, we are not doing it again.
You gave her 5 minutes.
You get 5 minutes.
How you gonna control how long she had for what she had to process?
Because I couldn't do it.
Because you couldn't
I
do
have
it.
to get
Got
up.
you.
I have to, whether I die, whether I live. At the time, the first thing I thought about was how big the insurance pays out differently between 20 and 21.
Not the
in my mother's
insurance.
life. I was thinking I was going to die.
Yeah.
And I was like, Mom, when I told my mom, the first thing I said to her was, Mom, I just got to make it to 21. If I could just make it to 21. That was what my range was.
Yeah.
And I said to my mother, too, I was like, I'm going to give you a hug. We're going to do it. It was actually interesting. It's a whole nother thing. But it's actually the first time I remember my mom and me hugging ever in my life. First memory I have a hug. When I say there's no vulnerable space. So that gives a light into why, like, I'm not out here like, oh, cry. Girl, no, hold it together because I still got to go to work. I still got to go to class. I still have to live life. And I don't have time to, like, I didn't have the privilege I felt like to fall apart, which...
So do you think, I'm sorry,
Go
but
ahead.
do you think that that's like a Philly thing or like that was just like the way that your black mama chose to raise you, right?
I did grow up in a little bit in the hood, but I think it was a combination of things. I think that people sometimes forget that all of like the expectations and stigma around what it means to be a man when you are a black man, it doesn't change when you're gay.
Yeah.
The difference is that
That's good to know.
While I never felt like I had to perform masculinity, I always had this thing like, you are not going to play in my face. I'm not going to be a victim.
Yeah.
I'm not going to let people define me and my story. I just had a thing about that.
Okay.
And that's why still to this day, a lot of times, it hasn't always been an easy thing, but I believe strongly in being unapologetic.
There you go.
I'm not going to apologize for my status. I'm not going to apologize for my gender. I'm not going to apologize for my sexuality. I'm not going to apologize for the way my gender shows up. Whether it's femme today, whether it's mask the next day, whether I'm in the studio kickboxing or I'm out here with a blouse on at a fashion show, still him. And you don't get to define me. You don't get, and I'm not going to shift in who I am. And I wanted, it was a journey getting to that place, which is why I do this work, which is why I'm here and why positive voices matter to me, because I want people, I don't care what it looks like for you, I just wanted people to know, like, there is a space for you to redefine what it is to be you.
I'm glad you answered that, because I was going to ask you, like, why, you came from season 1, right? And we're in season 2. And so, like, why was this important for you to come back for another season? And you just led into it. So like, why?
I didn't see myself anywhere.
Wow.
I didn't see myself anywhere. I said it season 1, I'm gonna say it again. The system felt me.
Yeah.
Nobody told me about Ryan White services. There was times in college where I wanted to start medication, but I had to pay a copay.
Yeah.
Nobody had told me about copay cards. Nobody had told me. There was money then. It's money now. If you are watching this and you are HIV positive, you never have to not be on medication. You never have to worry about those financial burdens. So definitely, like, come to our website. We're going to tell you at the end where to go for resources. But I didn't know about any of that.
Yeah.
No one even really sat down and explained to me like that it wasn't a death sentence.
Yeah, I mean, because that's what the information we got, right?
Yeah.
So early on, it was the gay disease. And then once they was like, that's not it. And then it was like, oh, you're going to die, right, from it.
Yeah.
And so to go from a doctor visit, testing, here's a piece of paper or conversation, right, of like this life-changing information. And you're not processing because you went to work.
Yeah.
Right. Just like many other people that I'm sure, we'll have on a couch this season to talk about like that experience of that first information, but like that blockage of processing.
A traumatic experience.
Yes.
Because hearing that you're HIV positive can be, and usually is a traumatic experience for most people.
Yes.
But that's again what leads me into like what made me able to do my job well as an adherence specialist is because I knew I was working in communities with people who did not have the privilege to process trauma, and it was way before HIV. There's so much trauma, so much we have in common. Sexual assault survivor, sexual abuse survivor, a person who is still alive after heavily struggling with suicidal ideation and major suicide attempts. I remember. And trigger warning, but I remember like when I woke up from the most recent suicide attempts, I was in the hospital by myself. I never told my mother. I'm a transplant. I live here. Nobody in my family, I think maybe 2 years ago, I just told her. Like that even happened. So to think that like I would have passed away, nobody ever would have even knew something was wrong. And it may have been a while before they were able to identify who my family was and let them know. But there was never room to process any of that. It was like, and I got to go to work. Because what's immediate is that I got to pay these bills.
That's it.
What's immediate is that I knew I had nobody else. Listen, I ain't had no man taking care of me. So what was immediate was that I had to take care of my immediate, it was survival. And I think I don't even know if it's so much just a Philly thing, but just the idea of being a part of a community where survival is the primary concern, whatever it takes for survival. And at that time, unfortunately, it was like, I can't cry, I can't fall apart. Because once I open up this door and go emotional, I don't know if I'm gonna come out of that.
Wow.
I never even had a space for that before. I don't know what it looked like to fall apart and cry and all of that. But working with a community of people who had that similar experience, I was able to hold space and do my best to create a safe space for them.
That's important. Thank you for what you do.
Thank you for being here and what you do as well. And that leads me to my question. What made you want to be a part of Positive Voices? What made you want to be a positive voice?
I don't think I wanted it versus this is something that I'm supposed to do. Right? I feel like that my calling and my purpose, right, is to use my suffering so that I can help, so I can serve others. So I'd say that feel like I was born to suffer so that I can serve. And I had to break that down to get people to understand that I'm not saying that I like struggle, right?
Right.
I know I don't, right? But I believe that my purpose here on earth was for God to kind of have me go through different struggles so that I can help other people heal. Whether it's them healing in the midst of, or like knowing about something so that in the event something happens, this is what I can do. Or like I'm out of it, but I want to be able to go back and help and pull somebody through, right? And so when the opportunity came to be here on this great platform, I thought about my dad. I thought about Monica Johnson, right? Rest in peace, Monica, right? And I thought about all of the other folks that I have crossed paths with because I've done HIV work. That was one of my first nonprofit jobs that I've took when I came from the military, was here in DC at Metro Teenage.
Oh, wow.
And I moved from an admin assistant to an operations manager to the directors, but still kind of help with the youth component. Because it was important to get the kids out in the world, whether they're infected or affected, right? And I think because all of us are affected by this virus, that it's all of our voices to talk about. Because as you said before, anybody who has sex, right, is open.
The disease doesn't discriminate.
It's open. It's no different than someone who smokes a cigarette for the first time. You might get addicted to that pack. And so everybody should be having conversations of it. And so I'm honored, to share this platform with such an amazing co-host.
Thank you, baby.
And be able to talk to the world about things that don't necessarily come up in our community so easily. And so, it was important to come on to let folks know that, it's folks out here that is doing the work. I do have a negative status, but that doesn't mean anything different from me and my co-host who has a positive status, because we both out here having sex, right? And so that makes us the same. Period, right? And so that makes us the same, and it makes all of us all the same to be able to have a positive voice as we build community around breaking the stigma, destigmatizing the and moving forward. So I'm honored. I'm just so humbly honored and thankful.
Yes, we are glad to have you. I'm just glad to have you here. I'm glad for everything that you represent. And listen, Y'all heard it here first. Like, you know why T is here. Y'all know why I'm here now.
Yeah.
Once again. And listen, this season is going to be
hot.
good. It is going to bring, if y'all can't tell, T a little spicy.
Ew.
And so we're going to have a lot of emotional moments. There's going to be some tears, some laughter. It's going to be some, controversial conversation, and we welcome you all to join us in the conversation. Not just watch us online, not just listen to us on whatever platform you're watching or listening, because we are on all platforms.
All of them.
All of them.
Hello.
But we want you to just, if you see us on social media, you see a clip, whoever posted it, engage us under, look for us on social media. Talk to us because we want to continue the conversation. A lot of you first season slid up in the DMs and was like, listen, when you talked about this, it made me feel like this. We definitely want to continue to hear from you. So if you are in the DMV or beyond, if you are in the nation and you are in need of resources, you can find all of the resources at www.linkyou, that's LINK, the letter U, DMV.org. And if you want to catch up on first season and see what we were talking about first season as a prequel to what we're about to talk about this season, or maybe just kind of see some of the things that we have coming forward, you can visit us at www.dcnshiv.org/podcast. T, say bye to everybody.
Listen, y'all already seen it. We outside for season 2.
Period.
More conversations, more guests, more building community, spreading education, and giving of resources. Y'all know where to look for us at. So we'll see you when we see you. And here's to season 2, Positive Voices.